President Macron has spelled out on his visit to China what has been clear to many around the world for some time now, that China has at least potentially a major role to play in ending the war in Ukraine. Macron said so specifically and plainly at the start of his visit to Beijing. His reason for saying so has also been plain to many, that China can play that role given its close relationship with Russia. Many believe that if there is any world leader at all who could prevail upon Putin to stop, it is Xi.
当今世界正在经历着深刻的历史之变。
The world today is undergoing profound historical changes. As permanent members of the United Nations Security Council and major countries with a tradition of independence, China and France, as promoters of the multipolarization of the world and democratization of international relations, have the ability and responsibility to transcend differences and restraints.
有能力、有责任 超越分歧和束缚
Adhere to the comprehensive strategic cooperative partnership between China and France with stability, reciprocity, development and progress. Practice true multilateralism and maintain world peace, stability and prosperity.
践行真正的多边主义，维护世界和平稳定。
But Macron's visit and his views are more than a little out of tune with those of top NATO leaders. President Biden has earlier dismissed a role for China in any peacemaking. NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg said only yesterday that economic relations with China are strengthening, in fact, Russia in its war in Ukraine. The test for Macron will be if he comes away with anything to show for this. He had earlier departed from the ways of other NATO leaders pre-invasion in his long meeting with Putin in Moscow across that long table, and that failed completely to stop the invasion or to persuade Putin. Economic interests are now at the heart of these differing ways. France is clearly putting its economic interests first. More than 2,000 French companies invest in China, and that includes giant companies such as Alstom and Airbus, which has more than 2,000 of its aircraft flying in China, bought by China.
L'agression russe en Ukraine a porté un coup.
The Russian aggression in Ukraine has dealt a blow to the stability. It ended decades of peace in Europe. I know I can count on you, moreover under the two principles I have just mentioned, to bring Russia to its senses and everyone to the negotiating table. And we will come back to this in detail. But we need to find a lasting peace. That is to say, a peace that respects internationally recognized borders and avoids any form of escalation. I believe that this is also an important question for China as much as it is for France and Europe.
Pour la Chine autant qu'elle l'est pour la France et pour l'Europe.
France and China are collaborating also on a number of nuclear projects. European Commission head Ursula von der Leyen is also visiting China, and like France, the EU itself is looking to firm up economic ties with China. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez visited China last week. Europe clearly is beginning to deal with China rather differently from US-led NATO leaders. We are seeing the development of a schism here.